Hi, I'm Joan Goodchild, contributing editor with CSO, and today we are at the CSO Cybersecurity Awards and Conference in Nashville, and I am pleased to be joined by John Strait. He is the Senior Vice President of Global IT Infrastructure and Security with Monster Energy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So we're going to talk first about Monster Energy's Get Stuff Done program. Intriguing title. Tell us about that.
Well, it really evolved from this whole concept that we came up about the cyber mindset, about how do we take training and education and security to the masses in a competitive nature that really, is part of our iconic culture that we have.
Yeah.
One of the big things that we tried to push for was we don't want to do training. Mm-hmm. In our mindset, kind of training really doesn't truly work. It's about how do you change the culture of an organization. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so dig into this a little bit more now. What problem precisely were you trying to solve when you launched the program?
Really, it was a replacement for phishing exercises and traditional in-classroom training. We found that users would attend, but it never really resonated. It didn't really change the click rate or the KPIs that we were looking at on what was going to move the needle. How could we change from a pure KPI, vision to a cultural shift in how we look at security? Mm-hmm.
And so, tell us about why you chose Hawks Hunt to help you try to solve that issue.
Well, part of who we are as an organization has always been around the competition aspect. If you look at anybody that understands Monster, it's about what we do as a brand and the competitive natures that we have in both our branding and our corporate culture. Really, Hawks Hunt really kind of embraced that. It's about the challenge of competition with your fellow employees. It's about looking at phishing, for an example, as a way to challenge yourself to do something better and to be better. Again, Monster culture really is about being the best and about really embracing winning. And Hawks Hunt really brought to the table that whole concept in a package. So we looked at what they did, how they did it, and it really kind of resonated with who we were.
Great. What results did you find most impressive?
The number one biggest result we found wasn't statistical. It was emotional. It was our employees were becoming engaged. They were actually having conversations about it. They were actually challenging department members, other departments to who could succeed higher on the leaderboards. The leaderboard became the conversation topic, which then in turn turned that mindset more towards security versus just trying to get through their day as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Did anything surprising happen while you were implementing the program that you maybe weren't expecting?
Really, honestly, it was just the engagement. Yeah. Traditionally with our previous vendor that we were working on anti-phishing for, we saw 10, 12, 15% engagement on a consistent basis. Whereas when we started leveraging Hawks Hunt, we actually saw our engagements above 60% for the first time ever.
Wow.
That's a major shift in accomplishing what the goal was, is getting people to think before they click, getting people to actually look and understand that their actions, even on the benign aspect, have consequences sometimes. Mm-hmm. And that became the conversation point. So when we started looking at what we were doing from a training and mindset perspective, that's where the cyber mindset really came in. It's how we looked to adopt into training into the actual cyber mindset on an everyday aspect. And the one bigger thing that we saw other than engagement really was it became the conversation point. And that's a real shift for us.
And what has leadership's feedback been on, the program and Hawks Hunt in general?
Overall, it's been wonderful. I mean, from the C-level all the way down to dock workers, everybody kind of noticed that, this was becoming a topic of conversation. Everybody noticed that this was something that we were doing and getting engagement on, either Viva Engage or at the water cooler or across email chats, across divisions, and across departments. Leadership actually saw that there was like this shift that we were trying to accomplish and actually attaining it. I think that was kind of the biggest kind of, feather in our cap on that.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, it being something that you heard positive things about from not just leadership, but everyone. So what did employees tell you, or other members of the security team, for example?
One of the big kind of takeaways that I took from what we were trying to accomplish was that it became the everyday conversation. Yeah. And again, this whole program kind of came from the fact that when we have an organization that moves at our pace, people have a tendency to stop thinking about what they're trying to accomplish and just trying to accomplish it. Whereas, the whole cyber mindset concept with Hawks Hunt was, we want you to slow down. We want you to do things right. Our whole mantra has always been, the can in the hand as quickly as possible. Everybody should enjoy it. For us, from a security perspective, we want you to slow. We want you to not be in the market as fast as possible. We want you to actually think about you engage. Those are the areas where this program has really kind of brought to light the pause, review, and then proceed. And that's a big shift for us.
Yeah, that's great. Just in closing, who would you recommend Hawks Hunt to? What kind of organizations or what kind of problems are they trying to solve that you would, recommend this to?
I would say this, I would recommend it to everyone just out the gate. Yeah. Where I would really recommend it is in companies that have this competition mindset as an organization. It definitely ingrates 100% as soon as you start having the conversation, if that's your corporate culture. If it's not your culture, find a way to adopt your culture to it. Find a way to make it more the water cooler conversation and less about training, because training gets presented and it's forgotten. When it's an everyday thing, when it's a competition, when it's part of your culture, you actually see a shift. And that's a big benefit.
Yeah. Well, John Strait with Monster Energy, thank you so much for joining us today.
I do appreciate it, and thank you very much for having us.
Great. And thanks to you for watching. For now, I'm Joan Goodchild with CSO. We'll see you next time.